To the naked eye, it's the crown jewel of Northern California. Majestic, silent, a postcard of tranquility. But to geologists, this isn't just a beautiful mountain. It's more like a loaded gun. So much so that the US Geological Survey classifies it as one of the highest threat volcanoes in the country. So what will happen when, not if, Mount Shasta erupts? We're gonna find out. I'm Geoff.
And I'm Alexa.
Together, we're exploring the history and geography of the world, one place at a time. Alexa and I are on our way back to Oregon, our home. And if you've ever driven this route along I-5, there is one unmistakable landmark, Mount Shasta. It is easily one of the most impressive, biggest, and most important mountains in the entire country. It also happens to be one of the most dangerous volcanoes in the entire country. And we're gonna talk all about that today. But first, there's a little pull-off up here that'll allow us to have a little bit of a better look at it. So let's go ahead and check that out. Our very first stop, and we can see Mount Shasta looming in the distance. It is big and beautiful.
And cold.
Oh man, she's got her winter coat on. That is like one snow-covered mountain. There's Mount Shasta, pink, right above Alexa.
I would point, but I am way too cold.
So Mount Shasta is here at the very southern tip of the Cascade Mountain Range. Our nearest mountain to Portland, our home, is Mount Hood. And what do I always say about Mount Hood?
That she's pretty? Was I wrong?
She is pretty, but I always say that Mount Hood is the best mountain that ever mountains, because she is. She's a great looking mountain, and she's my favorite mountain for the obvious reason. But close second would absolutely be Mount Shasta, because it is easily one of the most geologically and geographically interesting mountains on the entire West Coast, if not the entire country. There's gonna be a lot to talk about as we go all around, climb all over the mountain today. But for now, it's just good to finally see her. It's been a long drive from California.
Oh yes. Now, before we get too far into the video, I have to reintroduce our puppy, Pino. Say hi, Pino. Showing off his cute puppy because it is very cold. He is very excited to see Mount Shasta.
He's been in a car for 10 hours.
Oh.
And he wants to go home so bad.
He is ready.
He's so ready.
Now, leading up to this first view spot of Mount Shasta, there are these cute little trivia questions that are in the cement. I'm gonna be doing some trivia for Geoff a little bit later, so I'm hoping he's not paying too much attention. All right, we had our first great look at Mount Shasta, but we're still pretty far away. It is time to get a little bit closer, and that means getting back in our van, getting warm, and making it to our next viewing spot.
And yes, you guys can see the van is a little more complete than maybe the last time you saw it in our end of year recap video, but it's clearly still not done. So I'm not really gonna show you anymore. All right, I really couldn't help myself, but there was another viewpoint a little bit closer to the mountain at this hotel. It's on Google Maps, so we're gonna see if we can find it. If we weren't staying in our van, this would be a cool place to stay.
Oh yeah.
Probably warmer than our van.
Oh yeah. Definitely having some learning moments in the van our first
Oh, yeah.
few nights.
It's brisk. Okay, so I always say this, but this looks way more impressive in person. I know what you're all thinking, like, are we even that close?
You said it, not me.
We are pretty close, and it is, in our view, very dominating. But these little cameras, man, I don't know. All right, well, while we're here, I figured it might be fun to run through some quick facts of Mount Shasta. So this is not one of the tallest mountains in the United States. In fact, it would come in somewhere around 45th, 46th, the tallest being Denali in Alaska. And Mount Whitney and Mount Rainier would be a lot taller in the West Coast, and certainly a lot of mountains in the Rockies are much taller than Shasta. That said, it is one of the most prominent mountains in the country because it's a stratovolcano, which means that it has that very defined feature, right? It goes kind of like up and then down, unlike a normal mountain range, which is kind of just a mishmash of mountains. And of course, being a stratovolcano means that it's also explosive. This is not a dormant volcano. This is a very active volcano. In fact, it's actually 4 volcanoes stacked on top of each other. If you look closely, there's actually 2 of them that you can see right now. There's Mount Shasta, which is the really tall peak. And then right next to it is this like kind of smaller peak that almost looks like it's the same mountain. That's actually Shastina. And Shastina and Mount Shasta form the 2 biggest mountains as part of this single massive blob right here. Altogether, they are gonna cause some damage to this entire area whenever they explode, which is very important because the road that we drove up on, Interstate 5, is one of the most heavily trafficked highways in the entire country. And if Mount Shasta goes, I-5 is going with it, which is the very important artery between where we live, the Pacific Northwest, and California. All told, millions of people drive this route every single day. So suffice it to say, it's an incredibly important economic route. And if Mount Shasta goes, the nearest available route will likely be somewhere in Nevada because all of the highways nearby, US 97, and even the coastal routes could be impacted by the explosions.
That doesn't sound good.
That's partly why it's one of the most dangerous mountains in the entire country, but there's still more to talk about. For now, I think we still have to get a little bit closer.
Here's the thing. Having lived in both California and Oregon, I've driven along the 5 quite a bit.
I-5.
Listen, like I've told Geoff many times, you can take the girl out of California, but you can't take the California out of the girl. So I will continue to say the 5, but I've driven past Mount Shasta so many times and honestly didn't know it was a volcano until a week ago when we had this idea to come visit. So mind blown for me.
You can almost always guarantee that if there is a large, singular, pointy-topped mountain sitting in the middle of almost nothing else, that it is a stratovolcano.
And nobody talks about that.
That's why we're talking about it right now, so that you guys know. All right, Alexa, where are we heading next?
We are gonna actually start going up the mountain. We've been, I mean, from y'all's perspective, probably really far. So we're gonna try and get a lot closer.
And by a lot closer, we're gonna get on the mountain. As I'm sure you guys have noticed, there's a lot of snow on Mount Shasta right now. Typically, the higher we go, the more snow there will be.
That's how that works?
That's how that works. So we're actually not sure how far we're gonna be able to go. I read on the Siskiyou County website that the road has been plowed, and obviously it's a gorgeous day today. So I'm pretty hopeful that we can get pretty far up, but we're gonna go until we can't go anymore. So onward and upward.
We have about 4.5 miles until we get to our destination. Roads are getting a little bit more icy. I don't know if you can hear the ice sounds from underneath the van, and it's getting a lot snowier. It's beautiful, but I'm hoping that it continues to stay plowed. We'll see.
Man, thank God the weather is so picture perfect today. That made this a lot harder. I mean, like,
All right, well, the day's not done. Let's not put that energy out there.
knock on van.
I don't know, Pino might be a little camera shy.
We have made it, well, pretty far up, and much to my delight, the roads still looking pretty good. We hit a little bit of ice there for a moment, but overall, I don't know how much more I could ask for, because this is beautiful. And we're gonna get to see our pup play in the snow.
I've actually never seen Pino in the snow, so I am very excited for this. As we're making our way up Mount Shasta, we have stopped at the John Everitt Vista Point. This is a perfect spot to get a really beautiful view of the valley below, because believe it or not very many people live here on Mount Shasta. Most people live down in the valley, and some of the people that live down there are the local indigenous tribes. Now, the local Klamath people have their own accounts of how Mount Shasta erupted. They believed that the chief spirit Skell lived here on Mount Shasta and was fighting with the spirit of the below world named Lau. I might be saying that wrong, but he lived on Mount Mazama. Now that's Crater Lake, which we went to not that long ago. What's really interesting is as they were fighting, they were throwing hot rocks and lava at each other, which would explain the massive eruption that happened here on Mount Shasta. Oops. Now these accounts are very important for these local indigenous tribes and also for our own historic records. And we'll get to more of that in just a bit. But for now, we can enjoy the view of Mount Shasta and the beautiful valley below.
You know, it doesn't help that this snow, while it looks fluffy, is really hard and icy. We should actually be pretty careful walking on it because I don't have my spikes on me.
Yeah, and we don't want to go down that way.
Alexa, I don't know about you, but I keep seeing cars keep heading up towards the top of the mountain here. What do you think? Should we follow them?
Follow them.
That's what I like to hear. All right, let's see how far we can go.
Oh yeah.
We have made it to the absolute top of where you can possibly drive to on Mount Shasta, which is Bunny Flat Trailhead. This is the place where if you're going to summit Shasta, you start from here, sort of in that direction there. I think there is more road that's open during the summer, but they don't plow it, so I'm not even sure during the summer how well taken care of it is. But as you can clearly see, it's also a bit of a party area. There's like people having snowball fights, people bringing their sleds, a lot of kids. It's just a very fun environment here. This is beautiful. Pino's having the time of his life. He's eating a bunch of snow. We're not very far off the parking lot here, and the mountain is already just so big, so cool, so incredible, which makes me think it's probably about time to talk about stratovolcanoes.
What an odd thing to say.
Okay, so clearly I had to hold Pino while I was about to do this section because I think his feet were getting cold. But this is a good time to talk a little bit about stratovolcanoes because it's literally right there. You can see it right behind me. This is as close as we're gonna get to Mount Shasta. You're sort of like in my shot, man. He never wants to be on camera, and now he's like all on camera. So stratovolcanoes have that very conical shape, and they're always at subduction zone fault lines, which is when there's two tectonic plates. One is subducting underneath, which causes a lot of tension. And at some point, they rip and cause the biggest earthquakes we can think of, but also the most destructive volcanoes we can imagine. And Mount Shasta is one of those stratovolcanoes, including other very well-known stratovolcanoes like Mount Hood, Mount Rainier, and then of course, Mount St. Helens, which, as we all know, exploded a little while ago. This mountain in particular, like I said earlier, has 4 volcanoes in it. And so when it ultimately erupts, and it will ultimately erupt, it's going to explode big. There's gonna be a lot of explosion, a lot of lava spewing out, and most importantly, there's gonna be a lot of mud and ash. And as we're gonna talk about, that is actually the most dangerous part of any volcanic explosion. Suffice it to say, we would not wanna be right here when Mount Shasta blows.
You think?
Thankfully, I don't think we're in any danger right now. Are we, Pino? It's just a really good view. We'll head back down, buddy.
Are most of these types of volcanoes in the United States in this region, or are they throughout the country?
No, they're almost all in this region because we're along the Pacific Ring of Fire, which is this huge area that sort of borders the Pacific Ocean. So it goes into Asia. That's why you have like places like Mount Fuji, also another very famous stratovolcano. This is the most tectonically active region of the world. And so from here all the way up into Alaska and then all the way down south to Chile is easily the most volcanically active and destructive region on the planet. It's kind of surprising that one of our mountains, aside from Mount St. Helens, hasn't erupted more recently.
Now, we just got finished talking about stratovolcanoes, and we do want to make sure we talk about when was the last eruption. This was likely in 1786, and this account was recorded by a ship at sea. Now, the sea is not that close, so this was visible from very far away. And as we've already talked about the indigenous accounts of the eruption, these were recorded in the 1840s. So this wasn't that long ago, but it wasn't that recent either. When we're thinking about it in geological terms, that is just a blink of an eye. And the window for the next eruption they're anticipating is about 600 years. So we're actually in that window right now.
Why aren't you running?
We don't know when this is going to happen. I'll let the scientists figure that out. But it is really interesting to know that it could happen at any time.
All right, this parking lot is starting to get really full, and we're not sledding today. So I think we're gonna free up one of these spots for somebody and make our way to the other side of the mountain.
Ooh.
Because it's actually gonna be a very cool, I think, look at the mountain. So let's go ahead and do that.
Okay, while we head to our next spot, we have a little bit of a drive. So I thought we should do Mount Shasta trivia. Are you ready, Geoff?
Seeing as I'm also driving down a potentially icy road mountain, I feel like not as ready as I could be, but hit me with it.
You have to be prepared at all times.
Geography trivia doesn't stop for anybody.
All right, Geoff. Where would Shasta rank in terms of biggest volcanoes in the United States?
So we said earlier that it was the 46th largest mountain. So I'm gonna go ahead and say number 8.
Ooh, close, but
No.
it's actually ranked 3rd.
3rd?
Yeah.
Really? I don't believe you.
All right, well, I did Google all of these, and I tried to fact check as much as possible. For the sake of the trivia, all of what I'm saying is right. About how many people try to climb Mount Shasta per year?
When we were up there, I saw that a summit pass was only $25, which leads me to believe that it's actually pretty attainable. All that to say, we are far away from big cities. I'm gonna say 12,531 people.
Wow, that is quite a guess,
But no.
but
Yes.
it's not too far off. About 1,500.
1,500?
No, about 15,000. About 15,000 people a year.
Oh, I was so close.
You were very
I
close.
got that one, check.
All right, with that in mind, how many people make it to the summit each year?
I don't know, let's just say 7,500. Go halvesies. 50%.
No. So it's about 1 in every 3 people actually make it to the top.
Oh, okay. Okay, so about 5,000.
Yes. All right, we have one more question, and this one is interesting. Okay. What famous author and conservationist wrote a dramatic article about surviving a blizzard on Mount Shasta?
I mean, it's gotta be the one and only John Muir.
Ding, 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 ding. Correct. So he and some others were climbing Mount Shasta. They got stuck in a blizzard, and to survive, they actually stayed in one of the hot springs.
Oh,
So
wow.
they did that for 17 hours, I think. Now that is not something I would ever want to do. All right, you basically got 2 questions, right?
Sure, we'll say 2 questions.
We'll say 2. Good job.
Thank you.
And this has been our geography trivia for this week.
Hold on, let's pause. If you've ever driven Interstate 5 through Northern California, you've definitely had this moment. You're looking for Mount Shasta, but instead, your windshield is filled by something else. A dark, jagged, perfectly conical pyramid, rising right next to the highway. This isn't Shasta, of course. This is Black Butte. And while it looks like a mountain in its own right, it's actually just a geologic footnote in the story of its massive neighbor, Mount Shasta. Think of Black Butte as a volcanic cork. About 9,500 years ago, which is practically yesterday in geologic time, a vent opened up on the flank of Mount Shasta. But unlike the fluid lava you might see in Hawaii, the magma here was incredibly thick and pasty, technically known as dacite. It was too viscous to flow away. Instead, it squeezed out of the ground like a toothpaste from a tube, piling up steeper and steeper, layer upon layer, until it hardened into the steep, craggy dome that we see today. And because it rises over 2,000 feet straight up from the valley floor, and sits squarely in the foreground next to I-5, it creates a forced perspective. As you drive past, its sheer steepness and dark, tree-covered slopes dominate your field of view, briefly eclipsing the gigantic Mount Shasta behind it. Basically, it took up so much space on our own cameras that I couldn't help but take a moment to explain what it is. All right, I feel like I am a living, breathing advertisement for sunscreen right now. I did not put any on when we were on top of the mountain, and I kind of got blasted a little bit. Sun rays, they hit that snow, they bounce right back on you. We made it to the side of US 97 on the other side of Shasta, which doesn't look like much.
No, but I will say that Mount Shasta also looks pretty from this side.
Very pretty. It's really interesting too, because on this side is where you get the, I would say, the clearest distinction between Shasta and Shastina.
Totally.
Yeah. We just spent a whole bunch of time talking about volcanoes and it erupting and when it last erupted. We've not actually talked about why an eruption of Shasta makes it so dangerous, so violent, so incredibly important for this whole region as well as the country as a whole. And it really comes down to one word. Do you know what that word is?
Lava?
Lava would be the, I'd say, the answer that most people would have. That seems to be the most destructive part of any volcano. Obviously, it's very hot, comes bubbling up, very big explosion. I would also said that people would say the ash, maybe, right? It rains down on things, and it can also be very destructive. But similar to how an earthquake that happens in the ocean causes a tsunami, and the tsunami ends up being the thing that causes the most damage, when a volcano erupts, especially a stratovolcano like Shasta, the thing that ends up causing the most damage isn't lava or even really ash. It's something called a lahar. Do you know what that is?
No, but it sounds scary.
A lahar is simply all of the accumulated mass of mud, ice, lava, and debris that gets picked up from a volcanic eruption, and it comes racing down the mountain. So the reason we came to this side of the mountain is because on this side, there's some very clearly indented ancient lahars that we can actually still see today. They kind of look like old riverbeds that just are kind of dry right now. And water does use them today, but they were originally created during the last eruption by this ancient mud flow. And so it sort of carves these deep gashes into the earth. And if Mount Shasta erupted today, the lahars would come down this way again. They would hit US 97, which is where we're at right now.
Ugh.
They would immediately flow down to I-5 and cover it in debris, ash, mud, maybe even a little bit of lava, and kind of wash the whole thing out. Where we started, sort of at that first Vista point and the hotel that we stopped at to see a view of Shasta, those would also be washed away in a giant lahar. It's really incredible to think that something that far away can cause issues this far away and would actually be the more dangerous part of it.
Wow.
Yeah, US 97, I-5, gone. These are the two major north-south highways through California, Oregon, and Washington. All done in by that guy right there.
And lahars are different than mudslides.
Mudslides happen when there's like a saturation of the ground. So it just causes a liquefaction and then that all slides down. A lahar is caused by an explosion up there, the ice melting immediately, causing a rush of water. As that water comes down, it picks up trees, it picks up debris, picks up rocks, picks up mud, and it all kind of flows down. Imagine like a really big mud avalanche. That's kind of what we're looking at.
Ew.
You really see that dip in between Shastina and Shasta right here.
Now what's interesting about Shastina is that it was created by a huge mudslide. And when I say huge, I mean the world's largest recorded mudslide ever. Now this happened 380,000 years ago. This is a very long time ago, but you can see the visual evidence right up there.
In fact, Alexa, look at all these mounds here, including this one like right over here.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
What would you think these are?
Mounds.
If you talk to a geologist and they have no other information and they look at these mounds, they're gonna assume they're part of the volcanic network here, right? These tiny little bubble up pockets of, well, lava and heat and energy, right? But these are actually mounds caused by that really old mudslide.
Oh, wow.
So you're actually a little right. These are mounds. So what if Mount Shasta actually erupts today? Alexa, what do you think?
I mean, I think there will be a lot of destruction, but I think the devastation won't necessarily be with human lives. We have so much technology from the USGS that will be able to warn people that this is erupting, that they need to evacuate. I think the real concern really is the economic destruction that'll take place, like we've talked about a lot. This is a major economic corridor. That will likely be a mess.
Yeah, we know this because Mount St. Helens erupted in the 1980s and there was very few deaths from that. So if Mount Shasta erupted, most people would probably be fine. Some people probably would die, but it'd be very minimal. But the economic damage would be pretty intense.
I think our time here on Mount Shasta is about up. It's time for us to head back to Portland. But I will say this, if you're driving between Oregon and California, you should totally make a stop here in Mount Shasta. Try and spend a night at least, because there is so much to see and so much to do.
Like I said at the beginning, this is easily my second favorite mountain in the US, certainly in the Cascade Mountain Range. It's so beautiful, so picturesque. I'm a little sad to leave it, but we have another 5.5-hour drive to Portland, so we gotta do it.
And I think Pino's ready.
And Pino is definitely ready. Next week, we have another really interesting story. We're heading to the tiny Oregon city of Astoria to figure out why, despite all of the effort put into it, never became the Pacific Northwest major city. Instead, Portland and Seattle did. So come back next week
For another adventure. See you then.